Hello and welcome to Viewpoint. Today's discussion is about films and their effect on society. Our guests today are Alan Bannister,
Right.
Pete Scales and Vicky Jenkins.
Right.
John F. Kennedy was shot in 1963, but how much did you know about the events until you saw the film JFK? The Guildford Four were sentenced to life imprisonment in 1975, but how much did you know about the story until you saw the moving film In the Name of the Father? Both of the above are very powerful films, and both are based on true stories. So I know that when I walked away from watching the films, I believed every word that was said. But how often is a film that is based on, or is a true story, actually the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? In every film we watch, like the two already mentioned, films allowed a certain amount of freedom. For example, the information is sometimes added or taken out of a film to make it more interesting, or to shorten the length of the film. This is called poetic licensing, and films such as the two mentioned above are allowed a certain amount of this. Can you tell us, do you think that artistic license or poetic license should be allowed in films that are based on real life events, Alan?
To some extent, yes, I believe they should, because films are primarily a work of fiction, and they should flow and capture the audience's attention. If it was the case where they completely based on fact, then they'd be unwatchable, like they'd be in the form of a documentary. However, in saying this, the makers of these films have the responsibility of presenting both sides of a story.
Yeah, because it might not. You can't really say it's a true story because it's the director's version, isn't it?
Yes.
It's his opinion. Did it change your opinions about the film, such as JFK? Did it change your opinion about the event when you watched it? I think we were given a coloured view, and no one will ever really know the truth.
I went to see JFK, and because I can remember his assassination, and when I saw the film, I felt quite moved because I thought this guy, this investigator, had actually found something out, and nobody took any notice of him. But when I read a newspaper article later, the character that Kevin Costner played was generally reckoned to be a bit of a twerp, really, and he wasn't taken very seriously as an investigator by anybody. So I think in that film they'd overplayed the role of the investigator.
Like Vicky said, the director actually puts across in the film his opinion of the event. Do you think it changes our perception of the truth?
Yes, I think it does. Definitely. I mean, when talking about JFK, I went to see it. I didn't know much about the event, and I found it enlightening, the fact that it was definitely a conspiracy.
What about you, Vicky? Do you think it changes your perception of
Yeah, I think it does, because as I said before, you know, it's that one person's opinion, and they take all the facts and they take out what they want and change it to their own liking. So you can't possibly get the truth.
Now, moving on, do you think that watching a video on a certain subject is more informative than being taught in a classroom by a teacher?
It depends. It was certainly, for a video, it certainly presents the facts to a wide range of people, a broad range of people. However, it's not as informative as being taught in a classroom, obviously, because it's down to poetic license. The truth is to some extent altered.
But perhaps it damages children too. It alters their opinion of the truth. It doesn't let them have their own opinion by being able to watch these films.
When you say seeing a video, I mean, what kind of thing are you talking about? Are you talking about some
A true story that's happened.
Right.
Based on a true story,
Yeah.
is what
Right.
I always put.
But I think the problem is that there are always several versions of the truth. I think if you take any historical event, there are lots of different perceptions of it anyway, and people's views vary according to their politics.
Do you think it would be perhaps better though if they were taught by a teacher and just left to make their own mind up about the truth, or just left to watch the video? And
But then on the other hand, what is the truth? What does the teacher teach them, and what information are they allowed to give them? Because I mean, it's the same as everything. You know, you give people information, and it's up to them how they take it.
so perhaps the films should be given some kind of censorship or some kind of warning. these true stories?
The film used in the
I don't know
classroom.
whether a
Or yeah, any
warning-
film that any person in society could watch.
Well, I mean, I think if to take an example, I mean, if you were to use, I mean, I wouldn't imagine using JFK in a teaching situation, but if you did, I mean, I would think it would be important to put it in context and say, you know, this is what happened, because the point about JFK is nobody ever knows the truth about it anyway. And say, like, these are the things that happened. We know that he was killed. We know that it happened at this time, and various other
Yeah.
things. But then say, this
These are
is
other people's accounts
yeah,
of how it happened.
this film is one explanation.
Yeah.
But the point is that, like, JFK is like the ultimate murder mystery, really.
And
There's no-
it's up to you
But like
how
I said,
you
with-
perceive it.
Like I said, with films, they do bring the event vividly to life. They're more easily to understand. I mean, especially with children, their intake is more visual. So I think it'd be easier for them to understand a specific historical event.
Yeah, to actually, for them to sort of visualise the event. But then I think later, I mean, I think it's important for teachers to encourage a spirit of inquiry and ability to look at different sides, at different points of view. So I mean, it would have
So
to
in
be
that
put in
case, the
context.
film might be
Objective.
damaging.
It would only be damaging if it didn't have, if it wasn't accompanied by other accounts and other points of view.
Yeah. So if artistic licence was disallowed in films, such as JFK and In the Name of the Father, do you think they would have been made?
They would have been made, but they wouldn't have been box office hits, you know. It would have just been a straight documentary,
Yeah.
and it would have more likely to have been on television. Not as many people would have seen it, and it, you know, you just wouldn't really have heard about it.
So in many
as
ways,
much.
it's an advantage to have this artistic.
Again, I think the most important thing with these films is to get people to see them, and a
To make money.
broad range of people in society to see them as well.
But I think you've got to think of the directors and the producers' motives, and the point about a Hollywood film is primarily to entertain. You know, I mean, Hollywood is interested in the narrative form and telling a story and getting lots of people to come and see it. I mean, the film is to make money, essentially. And I mean, I think that if you talk about a more documentary form, I mean, documentaries are more for television. You know, movies, especially
Definitely.
Hollywood movies are about entertainment.
Perhaps society's been given the wrong impression, because when these films are advertised, they're always advertised as true stories.
But I don't know if you know,
So
that's a
it's
selling
actually
point,
based on a true story. They don't, and that's how they can do it.
That's the
Yeah.
major appeal of
Because
the film.
it may be very loosely based, but there are some elements of truth in it. They might have been stretched, but there are some elements of truth in it.
Exaggerated slightly. Now, we're all used to reading newspapers where facts have been altered to sensationalised stories. Do you think that helps us to accept that real-life films do not always stick exactly to the truth?
The newspapers stick exactly to the truth.
Well, exactly, yeah.
I mean, I think you could have quite an interesting philosophical discussion about what truth is anyway. But if you take any particular event, you know, whether, say, in Bosnia, right, which is really complicated, I mean, to find out what's happening there is very difficult, and to find out all the different points of view. So, I mean, I don't think that you can ever get a complete understanding of what those things are about. They're always going to be biased to one side or another.
Now, after films like JFK and In the Name of the Father are released, do you think that the media should be able to question new theories and evidence about artistic licence?
Yeah, I think that's one of the advantages of films like that. They open up old issues and old debates that should be answered.
Yeah, I mean,
They shouldn't question them. They should have a right to know, but they shouldn't question them, because nobody ever knows the truth anyway.
but I suppose it depends. You know, I mean, something like the Guildford Four, because I mean there was a conclusion to that. I mean, you know, we don't know who shot JFK, but we do know that the Guildford Four were wrongly imprisoned. And I think, you know, there is something from a narrative point of view that people like to see a story where things turn out right. You know, where the people who've had wrong done to them, you know, it's recognised.
Happy ending.
Well, yeah, I mean, it probably was. You know, it wasn't particularly happy being in prison all that time. But, you know, I think we like to know that things have turned out right in the end. So, in that case, like, the real life does seem to coincide with the requirements of a film.
Yeah.
Well, we'll leave the discussion here today, and you can make up your own mind about poetic licensing. Firstly, let me thank Alan Bannister,
Thank you.
Pete Scales,
Okay.
and Vicky Jenkins.
Thank you.
Join us next week when we'll be discussing whether there should be more censorship in violent films. Good night.
Yeah, I think yes.